If you look at a map of Texas, something immediately stands out. One half of the state is bright, crowded, and alive. A cluster of cities, highways, and millions of people. Houston, Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, all packed into the eastern side. But as you look west, the map starts to fade. The lights thin out, the towns disappear. And eventually, you are staring at a vast, empty space stretching all the way to New Mexico. It feels almost impossible. One state, but two completely different worlds. So why does nearly all of Texas live in the east, while the enormous western half remains so strangely empty? To understand this divide, you have to start with something simple: the land itself. Texas sits at the meeting point of two massive climate systems. Warm, wet air flows northward from the Gulf of Mexico, bringing humidity and rainfall to the eastern half of the state. Meanwhile, dry desert air pushes eastward from New Mexico and northern Mexico. The difference is dramatic, and this invisible boundary runs straight through the middle of Texas. The result is one of the sharpest climate transitions in the United States. East Texas receives between 45 and 60 inches of rain per year. West Texas receives as little as 8 to 16 inches. That is the difference between a forest and a desert, between thick pine woods and dry open plains, between fertile farmland and harsh rangeland. This natural divide created two extremely different environments. East Texas became a world of rivers, forests, fertile soil, and mild humidity. The Sabine, Neches, Trinity, Brazos, and Colorado rivers provided transportation, fresh water, and early trade routes. The land supported crops like cotton, corn, timber, and rice. Forests provided wood for homes, barns, and industry. Rain supported livestock and farming. West Texas, however, was shaped by scarcity. Trees were rare. Rivers were unpredictable. Rainfall was inconsistent. The land stretched out in wide open grasslands, broken only by rocky escarpments, mesas, and desert shrubs. Temperatures soared. Water was difficult to find. Farming was almost impossible without irrigation. And so, long before Texas had cities, people, or counties, nature had already created a divide that would shape its future. When European and American settlers arrived in the 19th century, they naturally gravitated to the east. This was the land most familiar to them. It resembled the southern states they had come from, fertile, wooded, and full of rivers. The earliest major settlements formed along waterways. Houston grew near Buffalo Bayou, Dallas arose near the Trinity River, San Antonio flourished along the San Antonio River, Austin developed along the Colorado. Meanwhile, West Texas remained wide open and largely unsettled, partly because the land was so difficult, and partly because of the Comanche, one of the most powerful and mobile Native American nations in North America. The Comanche controlled vast territory known as Comancheria, stretching across much of what is now West Texas. Their unmatched horseback mobility and deep knowledge of the plains made the region extremely dangerous for early settlers. For decades, West Texas was effectively closed to large-scale colonization. By the time settlement became possible, East Texas already had towns, railroads, plantations, commerce, and political power. The East had a massive head start. The arrival of the railroad in the late 1800s widened the gap even further. Railroads were the most important infrastructure of the time. They determined which towns prospered and which towns faded. The rail companies focused on East Texas, building dense networks that connected the region to New Orleans, St. Louis, and the eastern United States. Eastern cities became commercial hubs, manufacturing centers, and financial strongholds. Houston evolved into a port city with national importance. Dallas became a major junction for rail transport. West Texas did receive some rail lines, but they served a very different purpose. Instead of connecting large cities, they linked isolated ranching towns. Many West Texas towns were born solely because a railroad company decided to place a depot there. These depots collected cattle, grain, and goods, but they never grew into major cities because they lacked the natural advantages found in the East. Instead of forming economic clusters, West Texas became a chain of small, distant communities spread across hundreds of miles of sparsely populated land. Agriculture further reinforced this divide. East Texas supported diverse farming thanks to its rainfall and rich soil. West Texas was suited primarily for ranching, and ranching requires vast land but very few workers. A ranch spanning tens of thousands of acres might employ only a handful of people. As ranches grew larger, as land was consolidated, and as technology improved, the rural population shrank even more. Then came one of the most dramatic economic shifts in Texas history, the discovery of oil in the Permian Basin. This enormous underground reservoir turned parts of West Texas into some of the most productive oil fields in the world. Cities like Midland and Odessa exploded with activity, becoming symbols of the Texas oil boom. But oil brought a different type of growth, temporary, unstable, and cyclical. When oil prices were high, workers flooded the region. When prices dropped, they left. Oil towns experienced surges of population, followed by equally dramatic declines. The economy revolved around booms and busts. This instability prevented West Texas from developing permanent large cities with diverse industries. Oil wealth transformed the region economically, but it did not change the underlying demographic patterns. Today, the Permian Basin is one of the richest energy-producing regions on Earth. Yet the population remains small because the work is specialized, intensive, and often temporary. Technology has reduced the need for large workforces, and rapid industry cycles make permanent settlement risky. But the biggest long-term limitation in West Texas is not oil, ranching, or distance. It is water. Water scarcity shapes every detail of life in the region. The High Plains depend heavily on the Ogallala Aquifer, one of the largest freshwater aquifers in the world. Yet, in Texas, it is being depleted at a rate far faster than nature can replace. In some counties, groundwater levels have fallen more than 200 feet since the 1950s. Farmers who once relied on deep wells have seen them run dry. Entire irrigation systems have been abandoned. Without water, agriculture collapses, and when agriculture collapses, towns collapse with it. This water crisis is already visible. Many small towns in West Texas have seen their schools shrink to fewer than 100 students total. Hospitals close because they cannot attract staff. Grocery stores disappear, replaced by long drives to the nearest Walmart, sometimes hours away. Some counties no longer have a single practicing doctor. Main streets stand half empty, with boarded-up shops, peeling signs, and grain elevators that once served hundreds of farmers, now serving only a handful. These are the ghost towns of the Great Plains, not abandoned all at once, but slowly drained of life as each generation moves east in search of opportunity. Infrastructure adds another layer of difficulty. Maintaining hundreds of miles of highway for tiny populations is astronomically expensive. Rural fire departments rely on volunteers. Police forces may consist of only 1 or 2 deputies for an entire county. Broadband internet, essential for modern jobs, remains unreliable in many areas. Even something as simple as ambulance response time becomes a challenge when the nearest hospital is 80 miles away. For families, these factors make staying in West Texas a difficult choice. East Texas, meanwhile, offers a completely different reality. Major universities like UT Austin, Texas A&M, and Rice draw tens of thousands of students. Large airports in Houston, Dallas, and Austin connect the region to the world. International companies build headquarters there. Tech workers move in from California. Medical centers attract global talent. This concentration of opportunity creates a feedback loop, where opportunity leads to migration, and migration leads to more opportunity. Entire industries cluster together, with aerospace in Dallas-Fort Worth, biotech in Austin, energy in Houston, and military in San Antonio. These clusters generate high-paying jobs, innovation, and investment. This economic gravity is so strong that even people born in West Texas feel its pull. Young adults leave for college in the East and rarely return. Their parents age in place while the towns around them shrink. Some counties now average fewer than 3 residents per square mile. These are numbers more common in deserts and Arctic regions, not in the continental United States. Yet despite all this emptiness, West Texas remains crucial to the state. Its oil fields power Texas. Its wind farms supply massive amounts of renewable energy. Its ranches produce beef for millions of Americans. Its vast open spaces host military training ranges, national parks, and some of the darkest skies in the country. West Texas is not empty because it is useless. It is empty because its usefulness does not require people. In contrast, East Texas is booming. Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, San Antonio, and Austin are among the fastest growing metropolitan areas in the United States. These regions have diversified economies, including technology, medical research, aerospace, manufacturing, finance, energy, and education. They attract companies, workers, and investment from around the world. Infrastructure continues to expand. Universities draw talent, airports connect globally, and the warm, wet climate still supports dense settlement. The population imbalance between East and West Texas has become one of the defining features of the state. Nearly 90% of all Texans live in the eastern half of the state. 6 of the nation's largest cities sit east of Interstate 35. Meanwhile, many western counties have fewer than 5,000 residents, some fewer than 1,000. Loving County, for example, often cited as the least populated county in the United States, has fewer than 100 people, despite covering an area larger than many major cities. Brewster County, the largest county in Texas by land area, has only around 10,000 residents, spread across a territory larger than the entire state of Connecticut. Loving County and Brewster County illustrate how population and land area can move in opposite directions. The emptiness of West Texas is not a sign of irrelevance. In fact, it produces enormous wealth and resources, including oil, natural gas, cattle, cotton, and wind energy. These industries play a critical role in powering Texas and the United States, but they do not require dense human settlement. West Texas is built for production, not population. East Texas, on the other hand, benefits from the environmental conditions and infrastructure that support concentrated urban development. It has water, trade routes, ports, highways, airports, universities, and industries. Its cities attract workers and businesses. Its climate supports agriculture and manufacturing. Its geography connects it to the eastern United States and the global economy. Texas may be a single state, but its population map tells a different story. A story of 2 very different regions shaped by climate, history, and economic forces. The question of why so few Americans live in West Texas compared to East Texas comes down to this. The land itself made one region easy to settle and another difficult to inhabit. History amplified that divide. Modern economics widened it, and today the difference is as clear as the map itself. East Texas grew because it had the resources, connections, and conditions to support cities. West Texas remained empty because its landscape demanded vast space, scarce water, and industries that require machines, not people. The divide between the 2 halves of Texas is not an accident. It is the predictable outcome of geography, a story written across the land long before the first Texan ever arrived.